Ted, are we ready? Okay. Next up, we have Look at That Backend. Please welcome Drew Porter.
All right. Thanks for coming to this. We'll be talking about GSM. So what this talk is about, this talk's about the backend network of the GSM system and some of the security dealing with it. It's a 20-minute talk, so I can't go in depth into everything, but this is supposed to give you a general understanding. So it should be viewed as a primer, more so to get you interested, or if you already do GSM security, to get other people interested so that they can start helping you within your projects. So what this talk is not, this is not a live demo that I'm going to perform to show you how to break into telecom communities, you know, AT&T, Sprint, whatever you want to say, though Sprint doesn't use GSM, but so I'm not going to give a live demo. And it's not going to be me capturing phone calls, cracking A51, things like that. You guys have already seen that. That would just be a repeat of stuff. So what's in it for you? You'll have a greater understanding of the GSM network. That's always a plus. And it may motivate some to start looking into this network. It's a really cool network. I really enjoy it, obviously. You guys must have some interest if you came here, or you didn't want to go to the other talk. Whatever. So our agenda, that's what we look like pretty much. You guys can wake up around the questions area. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I'm a student. I am one of the founding officers for Buffer Overflow. I'm young in the field, so I'm young in age. I've been called a geek, ginger, ninja, whatever. And if you have a job in security, I am looking. Shameless plug. All right, so disclaimer, if you're from any of these agencies, I'd like you to leave. Just kidding. I'm not giving a live demo, so you can stay. Just don't black van me. Don't do any of that. Drinking will occur during this talk. Join in if you'd like. Security and drinking goes well. And this is from my understanding of the GSM network and from who I've talked to, items of that sort. So if you do find something wrong in my presentation, please come up to me after my presentation and tell me about it, because I'm totally fine with some, criticism on it. Okay, quick facts. GSM is not 3G, CDMA, LTE, GSRP. We know this. Though some of those technologies are built on top of the GSM network, that's why this talk is relevant, because these are building blocks for people. So the back end of these technologies are all fairly similar. Like I said, they are building blocks on top of each other. And people who work with cellular technologies, like at AT&T and T-Mobile, don't like to talk to other people who don't work in these fields. Unfortunate. Okay, so there's a little URL on top. Go to that. This is what I'm going to be using basically to talk about the GSM architecture. This is some ASCII art. There was a very small one that someone made, and then I decided to expand on it. I have a more expand version of it, but this is what we're going to be covering for this conversation. Gives you the acronyms that we're going to be using. Also, if you have alcohol, we're going to do a reverse drinking game. Every acronym I say in this talk, you guys take a drink. About the fourth slide in, you guys are going to get wasted. So, mobile, this is making a phone call. So we got the mobile station. Basically, all you have to do is you go through one side of the GSM network. You go through whatever backbone you're going to have, and then you go in the reverse order of that, and you made a phone call. And we're going to cover how that really works each step. All right, so we got the base station subsystem. This is our first part. Multiple BTSs, which we all know as cell towers, that's actually false, can be controlled by one BSC. Most others' research within GSM ends at this point, and that's fine. This is a really complex point to begin with. So ending at it and continuing the research, I mean, we've just scratched the surface on it, is awesome. We have projects like OpenBTS and things like that. And it's the only part that has wireless capabilities as a main function, and we'll cover the UM interface. So the BTS, commonly known as cell towers, that is false. It's actually that little box underneath it. The cell tower is just to make a better antenna range. So we know we can have these actually in our house. We know them as like microcells or mini hybrid-based transceiver stations. They look like that. That's one by AT&T. It's one of the most common ones. So you can have, this is not really dealing with GSM, but you can have multiple antenna types on the same tower. Some people I've talked to said that wasn't possible. Obviously, it is. So it connects the BSC via the ABS interface. If you think, so it's got E1. Think about like a T1 interface on the back of a Cisco router. That's awesome. Oh, and if you have questions, please save them towards the end of the talk because I will be cutting it close. So, and we use the LAPD protocol to communicate. So, yeah, you got one guy that's like, hey, what the heck? Okay, so a BSC can handle many BTSs. Think hundreds of them, basically. This is a generic picture of one. Depending on the implementation, it could do more than just basic control and handling for communications. And also, it will store some information such as carrier frequencies, frequency hopping, things like that. And it sends data to the MSC through the AA interface. And I had a more detailed presentation, but with the limited time, like I said, we can't really cover it. So most implementations will have the transcoder within the BSC as a part of the main function. This is just for ease of understanding to let you guys know that there is something kind of in between there. And the transcoder actually does not touch any of the SS7 or SIG-TRAN traffic within it. It just touches what the voice wants. So we got the network switching subsystem now. This is the part behind. This is the part people generally don't see. It's the core of the GSM network for just a pure GSM network. Like the BSS, it has many parts and it has different sections. And though I show like 4 main sections, there's actually many facets within this. There we go. So it performs switching functions. The mobile switching center, hence the name. This is the core switch. Just view it as like a switch in a regular network. It also keeps who should be charged for how long. This would be a good part to attack if you want to make free phone calls. This is one of the parts you'd want to look at. And it handles network interfacing for common signaling. And so that deals with both voice and also SS7. So VLR, this is a really important part of the GSM network. It's a database that keeps a list of roaming mobile stations. If you're not from San Diego, you're in a VLR right now. Your phone's registered somewhere else. I'm from a little up north from San Diego. My phone's in a VLR. It's a critical part in providing a TMSI instead of you have a permanent like SIM identifier. It provides a temporary one. This is for security within the network. Each BTS will have its own VLR. In theory, that means that each cellular tower that we can see will have its own direct visitor location registry that is registered to it. So I couldn't find a picture. A mobile station could be in one VLR at a time in theory. Sometimes they don't update and you're kind of in limbo, so your phone can be in 2 VLRs at one time. It keeps data that is relevant to the mobile station. This data such as the IMSI or the TMSI for temporary. Just think about that as like your SIM MAC card, generic. You got your phone number. You have allowed services that you can do within that area. And keeps the HLR info, location data, items of that sort. So HLR is a home location register. This is very important. Contains some semi-permanent subscriber information. It handles a lot of the SS7 transactions dealing when you have to update your location. Items of that sort. Also who can talk to what, where your phone is allowed. So it knows the ID of the VLR that you're currently in. This is very important. It knows all the information the VLR does, can set restrictions on what areas you can go to. So Authentication Center provides authentication. You guys, obviously per the name, protects network operations from fraud. I'd go more into that, but we're running about a minute late right now. Contains all the juicy information that we want, permanent keys of SIMs, items of that sort. That is something that we want, the private keys for those. It never releases those private keys to the actual network itself. It releases like a hash type key. So it doesn't have to ever release your private key over the network. And this is a part of the network I would like to attack. If you have the authority to let me test the GSM network, talk to me, because this would be fun. Okay, so we got the EIR, sorry. It has 3 lists within it. It's for the equipment register. It has a white list. If your phone's good, you're paid up, you're on this list. It has a black list. If your phone's stolen, things like that, you're on this list. It also has a gray list. Everyone who does mobile, I guess you could say research, develops apps, things like that, it will put you on this list because your phone's doing things that it's not supposed to. So a lot of you are probably on this list. And though they should always update each other, they don't. So your phone could be registered as stolen and be on a blacklist here in the US. You go to the Philippines, and it works over there just fine. So I know that was a lot of information. We're going to cover security myths, things like that right now. That was basically how the GSM network works in a nutshell. Like I said, it was a lot of information. I went through it fairly quickly. But you can start reading the GSM spec if you want to and get a lot more detailed information, which if you're into GSM, obviously I recommend that. Okay, so GSM backend security. I had to cut these slides a lot, so I'm going to cover this just generically. It uses out-of-band signaling, SS7 SIGTRAN, as a security method. There are some firewalls in place, quote unquote, but they usually cover the data side. And security through obscurity is a great security method, as people who developed spec for GSM thought. We know as security professionals that it's not. And security through the garden theory. Garden theory is only certain people will have access to the internal network, so we can have the internal network be insecure, and no one's going to, get in. So these are security myths that I've heard within security professionals or other people alike. We should only worry about the UM interface, and that's a wireless interface, and the mobile station itself. This is false, as we're knowing. We have lots of people coming out with awesome research dealing with internal parts of the network, and how to exploit it, how to travel through the network, using SS7 commands, things like that. So that's really exciting. And my phone calls can't be intercepted once they hit the tower. This is also false, because if someone has internal access to the network, they can intercept it. Law enforcement can intercept it, things like that. And I use CDMA, therefore I am secure. So this talks about the backend network as well. Obviously, we know it's not. Who went to DEF CON? Okay. Who had a CDMA phone that got owned? Okay. I'm sorry. The backend network is secure because no one can access them but the providers. Again, this is a garden theory, and this is used as a solid security method within the GSM network and telecom companies, unfortunately. They are realizing that, hey, we have people that can get in through different ways, so they're trying to change a few things. Different technologies built on top of GSM have addressed this, but still fall short quite a bit. Out-of-band signaling is great. Not really. There's a lot of people that do SIGTRAN and SS7 protocol analysis, and also can exploit networks with knowledge of SS7. So it's, they trying to change it from C5. If you guys heard about blue boxing was possible because of C5. SS7 was the fix for that. Now there's methods for getting around things with SS7. Okay, so we have security through obscurity. That is one of the main points of GSM security, actually. The encrypto within it, the actual backend software, the network design, things like that. They give it in the spec, but they don't give any good details about it. It's not open, so people can review it, and people who are, mathematicians can look at it. So this is one of their main focuses. Also, not talking about it is obscurity, and that's what they do. The backend system is secure. Oh, this is my favorite one. The backend system is secure because the government wouldn't let a system like that be insecure. How many of you believe that? I mean, how many of you work for the government and believe that? Oh, no one works for the government. Just kidding. Okay, so you guys that do work for the government, you guys know that it's not true. We know it's not true because the government lets lots of things become insecure, even if it is a critical part to their network. So we have some shortcomings. GSM does not provide end-to-end point security. 3G kind of fixes this, but not really. We'll cover why it kind of fixes it. The mobile station has to authenticate to the base station, but the base station doesn't have to authenticate with the mobile station, and this is why we have rogue towers. Again, 3G kind of covers this, but they do fall short, and there is a 3G implementation now of rogue towers, which is really awesome. So, untested proprietary software. We all know dev people are bad. I know I like my code to be reviewed because I know there are people out there that write better code than I do and find holes in code that I write. That's why people review it. But these codes on the code that is running on these systems are not really tested for security. They're meant for uptime, reliability. Security is now becoming a thought, but really it's just a back item that gets in the way of having having a system that has more uptime. So though we consider security to be part of uptime, again, security through obscurity. This is the key point. Everything I've noticed, other people I've talked to that do research on GSM, they always talk about this one key point, security through obscurity. It gives you time, but we all know that cryptos are broken. It just takes time. The last talk was talking about that. So it just takes time, and that's all that obscurity provides you. It provides you time before people like us will find you and will break your stuff. Telecom networks trust each other. This is a big one. Telecom networks like AT&T and T-Mobile trust each other. So if you can pretend to be a T-Mobile provider, you can become friends with the AT&T network. Also, telecom gear is trusted. This is, if we think about the microcells again, this is a key point. That gear is trusted by the AT&T's network. I'm using AT&T's as an example. That gear is trusted. Therefore, it's allowed to communicate to their network. They have various security methods within it to make sure that it's not tampered with and things like that. But it is trusted out of the box. Hey, I belong to AT&T. You can trust me. Trust me. Don't you trust me? So this is another thing that's great for us because now we have some of the gear that is trusted, but it's bad for them, and they need to start working on that. What I would look into, so SCTP is a protocol, sort of like TCP and UDP. It's common within VoIP systems. There are systems out there on the web that connect to carriers that use the protocol SCTP. So you can start looking for servers that are handling that, and you're probably if you hit, let's say 100, guarantee at least a few of those are going to be some cellular companies. Get a picocell, microcell, whatever, and own it. There are people who are doing awesome research on owning these devices themselves. So buy one, try to own it, let's start communicating. There's been talks on it before. Look into SS7 and SIGTRAN. This is how you navigate through the GSM network once you're in. It's very handy. There's lots of books on it. Other country telecom networks. I'm not saying break into other country telecom networks, but I'm saying that we should start looking at how some implement it. Some Asian countries do it right. Some European countries don't do it right. So that's what that is about. Also, cellular data networks, GSRP, UTMS, things like that. That might be a next talk I give with a live demo on how to get into that. So current research. So I'm running a project called OpenGSM. I'm trying to build a backend network for GSM that is both open and secure. And I've been working on that for a little while. Access to the garden is another thing I've been working on. It's how to get into other telecom networks. So that project is not open right now, but it is out there, and there are other people that have been doing research on it. So OpenBSC, OpenBTS, we know these projects. These are great projects. We start looking into them. Other talks. There are other people giving out talks. A lot of them cover mobile stations, but there are more talks talking about the backend network itself. So that's awesome, and we should start participating in it. Okay, so you have the basics of the GSM network. You have the basics, some security or lack of within the GSM network. You've heard the security myths, you've heard of the downfalls, you have seen current research, now go do something about it. These are my links. And again, thank you for your time. My name's Drew Porter. If you got questions, I only have about 10 seconds, so you can ask them. Remember, I don't know everything.